should do, and read, the organizing, if it's effective, should do multiple things at once. And so by building
Okay.
parallel systems of support, we're doing three things. One, um, if we want to actually topple an authoritarian government, right, that is literally telling us we don't care what you do anymore, right, we need to have a plan for that, a break glass in case of emergency thing. So to be able to do that, you have to knock out pillars of support, and it's never from the top, it's always from the bottom. And it requires this kind of massive coordination of people and a hive like structure across a large landmass. So it kind of almost is like kinetic movements together to be able to do this thing. So that's one thing it does. Second, we are headed into a polycrisis, which includes climate change, right?
Hmm.
And ecological collapse. That is going to require, literally, for our survival, that we collaborate at the hyper-local level from here on out. And so it also builds this muscle memory that we need in this moment to be able to move together to face this moment where literally our own governments have put out that 6 billion with a B people will die in a decade because we have already tipped the point, right?
Hmm.
And so that sucks. And then the part, and I know that sucks, but we're already there. And if we don't have a plan, we're going to be caught in panic. Whereas these people have already built a plan, and we're seeing their new world order. They want to create a white slave catching state to sexually enslave people again and to reinstate this kind of classist sort of hierarchy. They're using the economy to kill us. And then they're already building in their rich techno fascist little hives practicing new models of living together because they expect us to die because this economic system is designed to kill us was necessarily slowly, and now it's like all at fucking once. They know what climate change is coming. They don't want to share the planet with us. And they are
Right.
building new ways to survive in that moment that don't involve us. And we don't have to choose their story as our destiny. So we can do these two things and in the process sort of reweave the fabric of community and relearn how to be neighbors and how to build ways to collaborate and share goods that actually meet people's needs and not like mega businesses. So that's a lot of words that I just said. So what do you think about that, Fred?
No, I mean, and I think anytime you start talking about that stuff, the people might start to get it feels too big, right?
Oh my God, it's
The
huge.
same thing with climate change and and how do we do that? And you already saw this happening to like starting to happen in Minneapolis, where neighbors would first get together to basically use like garbage cans or whatever from their house to block the street off to try to keep ice from coming. And then you started doing cooperation against ice. And then you heard stories about like, hey, I'm going to go to the store for my neighbor who is in danger of getting caught by ice, so I'm going to do that, or I'm going to. And so to your point, like that's kind of how that organically starts with our
Mhm,
neighbors, right?
mhm,
And I think that where this moment is leading us and where we kind of always should have been is you can't think that, hey, who's going to be the next Obama that's going to save us? Who is it? Gavin Newsom? It's like, oh, I really like him because he, takes the piss out of Trump. So I'm going to go after, like, I'm voting for him and he's going to save us. And then when they get in power and they don't really change the structure, you're left wondering, like, well, what the hell happened? Right. And then there's a backlash. And then you get it's like they bring in the next Trump or JD Vance or whoever it's going to be. And they're not really changing the system. Um, because these people, whether we have what you're talking about, the absolute worst case scenario, decade, billions of people die, you have a climate shift, and people say, well, that's outrageous. That couldn't happen. Could it? Could it happen? Well, you look at the snowpack that we in Colorado, and I've been talking about this, it's not just in Colorado, it's also in Utah, it's in Oregon. Basically, every state of the continental divide, west of the continental divide, the United States, is significantly short of snowpack. We are now over 50% in Colorado. And so unless we have like a banger March and April, and even then, we're already at a problem because it doesn't have enough time to really freeze in those
Hmm.
mountains. Because what a lot of people don't understand with water is Colorado is sort of, because of the altitude, is the start of a feeder system for melt and water for over 18 states. And it's not just, hey, we're going to have a drought in Colorado, which we already have in extreme conditions in the western part of the state. You're going to have drought in 18 other states. And so if this becomes a trend and this is normal, like we haven't really started winter here in Colorado. We've had more warmer days this winter than colder days. We haven't really had any snow. And the problem with that is if that's the trend, you basically make the Western United States unlivable.
Yeah.
And that's how you because so now what happens is you have mass migration of people because if you can't support, because you got to remember in a lot of these Western states, like Phoenix, you shouldn't have millions of people living in Phoenix in Arizona. It's a desert, but you do. And we just take it for granted that, oh, well, yeah, you could do that because look at our science and look at this and look at that. We're amazing. No, not really. You still need water. And how do we get that water? It just doesn't magically appear. Well, it comes from the Colorado River. And if the Colorado River is not melting because we don't have the snow melt in the Rockies, that's how it starts. And so when you start having the mass migration of tens of millions of people, that's worse than a war, you know? I mean, can you imagine like if you're on the East Coast and suddenly your state population doubled within 2 years? Like just doubled. Not increased, but doubled. That's catastrophic. What do you do with that? And that's what we're talking about. And unfortunately, what we're going to have is you're going to have a bunch of dipshit billionaires that are like, you know, "Ooh." Like, yeah, but you guys created this problem. You said AI was going to solve everything. You know,
No, I mean, I think it's a ketamine fueled dream from Elon Musk, thinking that if he ruins the world of its resources, he could somehow invent some way to, and he's just wasting resources. What needs to happen right now is a complete slowdown. Like, we have to stop wanting what capitalism wants. And I know that that sounds really scary, but the only way to dramatically dig in our heels as human beings, because this system requires our complicity to continue, is to slow down this push to consume and to do all these things. Their solution is AI takes your jobs, we create mass unemployment. We then criminalize you and put you into prisons for being homeless. We abduct people who are Black and brown, also put them in prisons. We remove vaccinations to let a lot of people die. We take away people's rights. And then from there, we have a tiny bit of resources and you can do the farming for us, you people that we are enslaving. That is literally what they are trying to do before our motherfucking eyes. And everyone is talking about, will Gavin Newsom be the next blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I mean, fuck, guys, shit. And I mean, I mean that in like the biggest, like if we were all in a room together, I think we could just have this fucking moment, right? So I guess that's my deal here is just like this pageantry of fascist fucking bullshit doesn't matter because it requires our participation and we don't
mhm,
have to participate in this shit. And parallel systems of support is a way to be like, cool, fuck this shit, I'm out. Like we're doing something else. And sorry for the double birds for whoever is offended by middle fingers. I'm very sorry. Those were not to you. Those were to the techno fascists who are like, oh, I have an idea to climate collapse that we caused. We'll kill all of you because you're just cattle to us. That
right.
sucks.
I think the wrinkle in that plan is like, phew, you are banking on the fact that a lot of people are going to go quietly into that good night, and
Exactly.
I I don't I don't really see that.
N
Um,
nor do I.
no,
Fuck
And
no.
no, and I think the big thing now, where the Epstein files with the Epstein regime and the Epstein class, what they're not planning on it, and what they I think, because again, these people they're just pie in the sky, like you said, it's a ketamine fueled dream,
They're
right?
fucking nuts, dude. They're fucking
Right.
nuts. Sorry, I had to say that and then
No,
yes.
no, it's
Ridiculous.
we're gonna build underground bunkers, and it's like, okay, I love Fallout as much as the next Fallout fan, but the logistics of living in a bunker long term, no, it doesn't work out for you. In fact, it works out worse for you. Like just the science behind it is like, do you know how many ways you could die from lung and mold inhalation?
Mhm.
Which happens in an underground environment. It's not good. It's like fresh air is something you kind of need. You know, uh,
Yeah, dude, you're
yeah,
right. And I mean, I'm just sitting here laughing because like my 17-year-old self almost died in a barn party when I was in high school because we left the fucking barn door closed in a generator. There are so many fucking ways you can die. And these people are not as smart as they think. They've just let life
no, I
insult
mean,
them and they think they're talented and they're not.
part of me wants them to be afraid and like retreat to their underground bunkers. And you're like, all right, cool. Let's just seal it up, put some concrete over it, and let's get on with us, running the world. And
That's what you
but
get for raping kids.
yeah, it's like, all right, well, yeah, be in your bunker, like it. And again, people may think you're being hyperbolic, but at Davos, they were talking about this. This is
Yeah,
true. Okay. They said, hey, you know, we need to figure out the security concern, right? Because if we go underground, we're going to have this security force, which we absolutely need. But how do we keep them under control if there's no money and they don't, you know, and because they may just take over our vault and kill us. So here's the two proposals were one was robots, right? They're going to build robots to guard them, which is why there's an AI push. The other one, and this is from Elon Musk with the Neuralink, is mind control, which is absolutely part of the second season of Fallout, right? Like that has a real world implication. It's like literally mind control. And I was like, and I jokingly say like I've read more about the Roman Republic, Roman Empire than these jackasses that think they have. It's like, man, where have I seen that before? Where soldiers don't get paid and they kill their masters. It's like, oh yeah, the barracks emperors and the Praetorian Guard. It's like I'm like, you guys haven't thought, which again, for a sane person would be like, so here's what you do is how about not pollute the world and just pay 5 to 10% more taxes and keep your ass out of elections? Then you don't have to build a bunker, right?
right. Well, and it's not only that; it's that at this point, what they are doing is pushing humanity off a cliff. So if they do not start paying, not only start paying taxes, but also create an economic system that works to design and meet local people's needs and have a clear-headed view of climate catastrophe and developing a national defense plan to help us collaborate with each other during times of crisis, that's what an actual leader would do, right?
Mhm,
But this idea that we are just going to let a whole bunch of people die by removing vaccines, by making everything less safe, by giving white Christian nationalists the room to reign terror, by all this fucking shit, like their plan is gross and
mhm,
it's and there are so very few of them, right? But I guess my
mhm.
point is for that reason, we could just say fuck your entire economy and just pull out of it and just be like, "Cool, you wanted to collapse the human population. We're gonna collapse the economy and start sharing with each other because it's a cake or death situation, man. Like we can't keep on we gotta take the cake because they are literally just serving us death. And I don't know what else the fuck to do other than to, show them that the people can stop working and stop participating in an
No, yeah,
economy.
that part right there. I mean, the thing is, like, you once. we are entering into, you're touching on a really good point. We're entering into where our system is starting to fail,
Right.
right? Like to your point about conspicuous like just avarice consumption of products or whatever, having new iPhones every single year or this or that or whatever, it is starting to fail, and not only fail, have disastrous consequences for the planet, right? It's one of the reasons when I put up a note every once in a while where it's like, we can have this nice thing or billionaires, but we can't have both,
Right.
right? You can have universal health care or billionaires. You can't have both,
Right.
and or you can, and like when push comes to shove, what I think where it comes down to is there's so many more of us, and a lot of us are not going to go quietly into that good night. And because these people really don't understand systems, they don't understand what is involved in getting just making the thing work. It's like, oh yeah, we'll just have a few people on the farm. What farm and how and what are you going to grow and where? And then it's okay. Well, are you going to have are you gonna do it like in prison where you have like, one armed guard for blah, 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 blah? Because I hate to tell you, man, like, you know, you can have a prison riot and people can rise up, especially when they're starving or, you know, they feel compelled to do so. And right now, I think the thing that's happening is you are breaking the social contract to where you are forcing people that have nothing to lose. Like today, so this is in my world, in the veteran world, they proposed so the Secretary Collins of the VA proposed a rule change, right? And that is they're going to lower your disability payments if
Mhm.
medication is making them better, right?
Yeah.
So, and that could be interpreted in so many ways, right? So, like, I have a lot of joint conditions from an injury and, all these things. I take ibuprofen to ease that pain. So if I take ibuprofen to ease inflammation, does that mean you pay me less disability?
Right. If you take gabapentin,
According to
that
VA
means
rule now, yes. If you have severe PTSD or you have, a condition that, like you developed some form of like something from your time in the military, which a lot of people get, like, you know, so there's so that you might have seen the big gunships and the Air Force, with the guns on the side and they
yeah.
fire. Well, they have gunners in there, right? A lot of those guys who are gunners, because you're talking about these massive rounds and there's so much lead in the air that they have cancer because of all that inhalation of lead as they're firing the guns, right? Where they've had medics go on board and said, "Man, every one of you should be wearing full blown oxygen masks because there's so much lead in the air because you're firing these off." So if you have cancer, you got from serving in say Afghanistan, where they use those quite frequently because of the mountainous terrain, and you're taking cancer meds to mitigate that. I guess you get less money now, and then
Yeah.
you want to go but then you want to go to war in Cuba. You want regime change in Cuba and Iran.
Mhm.
I don't think that's going to fly, man. you know, because you're going to get to you are breaking this covenant to where if I work hard and I get a job and I follow the rules, I'm going to I'm at least going to have a life, you know. So our choices now are slavery and watching our communities just be destroyed or going and picking up a stick and busting you in the mouth.
Well, and I wanna offer a third option because you know how I feel about sticks. No, I'm joking, but, like, hear me out because this is actually
Yeah.
alright, so, um, when this is the part where I love this because we're sort of meeting in the military in some sort of way because, like,
Yeah.
so I come from the realm of studying folks like Gene Sharp,
Mm.
who is a brilliant scholar of nonviolent civilian defense, and he has this data about how everyday people can do it. Just hear me out because this I think there's a silver lining in this.
Yeah.
In those cases, in those cases before where nonviolent civilian defense worked, they knocked down the pillars of support and it has been everyday people. In this situation, there is a group of people who are highly trained in informational security, operational security, and discipline. And if you build parallel systems of support using like that model that I'm talking about, like a daisy chain, and veterans in each zip code lead these kind of efforts to collaborate,
Mhm.
it you can bring down a totalitarian government without ever waving a goddamn stick and do it
Yeah.
unarmed. And that's the thing is that, like, many of the people that I have talked to as I built out the daisy chain, it's not a surprise to me that an overwhelming majority of them have been veterans because they feel like something has been stolen from them.
Mhm.
And they want, like, a sense of purpose that they have something to give back to their community and that makes them feel like they weren't just used. And I think that the reason why the United States government is doing this is the same reason why they took down, they're being really anti-Black, and they're taking down, like, all of these, memorials. They're literally doing everything they can to create as many uprisings as they can, and they are trying to pick on one traumatized community after another, whether it is trans people, whether it is veterans, whether it is Black Americans in the United States. They are trying to pick fights and get people so pissed off that they do something that then justifies Melania Trump, autonomous drones, like her little fucking, you know.
You know, like,
I'm
and
sorry,
I
had to.
I honestly I agree with you, right? Like, I've said that, like, basically what you're looking at, if you're looking at this from sort of a strategic perspective,
Right,
is you're just if you look at nonviolent resistance or violent resistance as a form of pressure, and what's the more effective, right?
right,
Um, the thing with these billionaires, and the Epstein class, and the people like Trump, like, without his dementia, right? Do you think that Trump could fix a ham sandwich if he needed to?
heck no. I don't think that
No.
Elon Musk can find his asshole without a bidet.
Right. And so you got these very self-important people that are also cripplingly insecure and can't do things for themselves. And to your point, all it's really going to take is a mass movement of people to just say, we don't need them, right?
Right,
Like, what it's a lot of people are like, man, America's, our place in the sun, superpower, the decline of the empire. It's going to be this, it's going to be that. Honestly, might be one of the best things for everyone else if that happens, because it's going to force us to go, oh, okay, well, you know, what do we do? It's like, all right, well, you may not get, say, quinoa, but you're going to get the kind of food that's more local. You're
right,
going to have to live like your grandparents, where it's like you got seasonal fruit. You might have to learn what canning is,
right.
and you just, okay, like, your life changes in some ways, but it gets better in others.
Yeah, dude.
And
Exactly
that's
that.
and that might be the future, where it's like, yeah, you can't get tropical fruits year round, but that's okay, you know,
Right.
because, yeah, it's like you end up eating more potatoes.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
You don't
and
eat
also
as much meat, but you get your protein from like, you learn how to actually cook beans in a pot again.
right. And another thing too, like, I just wanna, like, hold up, I mean, I would be remiss, I feel like some of my ancestors would smack me across the back of my head because my dad is Lenape, but another thing too is that, like, in this moment of, like, ecological collapse, like, returning the land to people who actually understand how the ecosystem works in that area, and, like, there's a kind of relationship to land that is not just about, like, understanding ecologically how it works, but understanding how to care for it,
Mhm.
and, like, god damn it, like, we have fucked this shit up, and land back isn't just a cute little slogan. right?
No.
And it doesn't, and I think that when people hear that, they think that First Nations will do to white people what white people did to them. And that's not what they're saying, you
No.
know?
No.
And so I just that's the other piece is that like there might be ways of eating, and also things to plant, and knowledge of how to grow things together that are rooted specifically in the climate and the ecosystem that you're in. And I think learning to be in relationship, and with First Nations, but also like in relationship to the land that you're actually living on, and stop trying to fucking terraform it, we might actually experience better nutrition
Oh,
if I'm
I
it.
100%. I mean, like,
Yeah.
if you had, I mean, you look at a lot of these, there's issues with some of the homesteader movement, or, but like, and permaculture and a lot of this other stuff, but like, if you had, say, it's funny, I had like kind of an aside. I have a buddy of mine. He took his grandparents gave him this solid oak dining table, and he took it, right? And his parents were like, "Why would you get that? It's out of style. It's out of this." They're very like sort of boomer-esque, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Baby boomer. Not and
Yeah.
not all boomers are like this, but
Yeah.
that sort of start of they're very much conspicuous like they're consumers.
Yes.
And he's
Yes.
like,
Lord.
he yeah, and he's like, "This is solid oak. Like, it's well made. I don't have to buy another dining room table ever." That's it.
Yes.
And I mean, think about that, right? It's like, where it's like, "Oh, no, we gotta get new granite countertops." Oh, you might not have granite countertops anymore, you know, but you're gonna be able to leave some, like, clean air and clean water and food to your grandkids.
And that's the shit that matters. I mean, isn't it so funny that,
Right.
like, not funny, but, like, it's grotesque is the word that I'm thinking of.
Yes.
I think that Donald Trump does everything with a laugh that is grotesque so that he manipulates people into laughing along with him when it's not a fucking joke. But in this moment of, like, pulling away resources and letting people die and starve, he is bragging about the granite and destroying this very imperfect but still symbolic house of the people, right? And being like, "Oh, but I put granite in it." I mean, fuck you and your granite. Jeez, the
You
only
know what's
granite I wanna see is over your fucking tomb, you asshole. God
you know
damn.
but what's funny is, you like, and this always has me laughing, right? Is you go to, like, say, with the Bourbon dynasty in Italy, in the Palace of Caserta, or you go into some of these great palaces in Russia, and, one, it was like they built all this up and these people are starving. And what happened to those people that were in all these massive palaces? They got killed because people got tired of starving. The Palace of Versailles, the main one, where the phrase "let them eat cake" comes from, right?
Yep.
Like, why did they storm the Bastille? It was a food riot, ultimately. People were
Yeah.
starving, something kicked it off, they said, "Screw this, we're storming the Bastille, we're getting our friends and our neighbors who were locked up for nothing because they're starving," and then it kicks off the French Revolution.
Mhm.
And again, it's I'm I'm always kind of, like, surprised but never shocked by the hubris of people in power, where it's like, you have so many historical examples of where this is gonna go, and all you really need to do is stop screwing with, like, important systems, like food systems
Yeah.
and ecology, and just pay some more taxes, and then
Right, and
you can have your wealth, you can have your Davos, like, instead of having 700 billion, you just have 2, which it doesn't really matter at that level. It's not gonna fundamentally, materially change your life,
no,
but
and yeah.
But where it's starting to change and where it gets dangerous is, to your point, when we start saying, "Oh, wait a minute, we don't really need them. Like, they're not really doing anything for us, and we're having to do this ourselves. So why do we need them?"
Right. Right.
You've
Exactly.
only
And I
been
mean,
convinced by the people in the temple that you need them, you know? There's a reason the church has built these grand cathedrals, and they made you go to church way back in the day, and because they had to convince you somehow that you really, really, really needed them. But did you?
no, you didn't. And they're
No.
trying to get that back again too. And I mean, Peter Thiel is very, very open about that. The fact that they have aligned with the Christian nationalists, the fact that like a ethno-religious nationalism is on the rise in all these various, it's not an accident. It is meant to, they assholes have no new ideas. They're just doing the same shit, man.
Yeah.
And their idea is to, I mean, it's absolute fucking batshit. And there are way more of us. You know, it's just, I think, making sure that people have a plan and realizing how it's actually simpler than you think. You know, you just got to get off your screen and do some of it. You don't have to do all of it, you know?
Yeah.
And I personally feel like even if they decide somehow to stop taking ketamine and or, you know, whatever.
I say we give them more ketamine. That's what I'm
You
thinking.
know, real. I've actually, I have in a weak moment prayed that maybe Elon would get all the ketamine that he ever wanted. You know, without a friend there to tell him, buddy, that's too much. You know, and
Yeah,
that's not nice. But I also feel like these people are, they're like a black hole,
they are.
and it eh, they're, I mean, they are truly cancerous to society. I mean, this is a gross, not just a gross abuse of power, it's a gross abuse of humanity because they have no power, we do,
Yeah.
fuckers.
No,
I
we
just
just we haven't used it. And I mean, you think about it is if y- it's like, oh, well, how would that work? It's like, what if one Amazon plant just decided we're not working today and we're not going to let anybody else work?
Mhm.
What happens? You know, that's why they don't want us to be. That's why they don't want us to be the collectivized. They don't want us to form these communities. They don't want us to start talking about it because
Mm-mm.
you know what happens if you, suddenly the food service workers in New York City just say, we're not serving these people that live on this street and have that. We're not serving you. Go get your own
Yeah,
food.
yeah.
You know, like you can't like, and it's like I was like,
All the
no,
Uber drivers fucking stop for a
yeah,
week and we give them,
we're
yeah,
not
me,
we're not bringing them to these people.
mhm.
They, you know, if they want their food, like even if you want your food, you have to come into the grocery store and buy it yourself. You know, now it would take collective action, but is that any more monumental than like say like that's something within our power to do? And it's like, oh well, Fred, that will never happen. It's like, okay, but look how much has changed about how people view billionaires in just the last 5 years. Remember when, like, because what we used to view billionaires as when it was more favorably is like, it's the Oracle of Omaha. It's kindly little Warren Buffett. Like, oh, he's still living in his same house. He just has a lot of money, right? You know, whereas now you're seeing them for the parasitic class that they are
Right.
and what they're doing to the planet and the effects that they're actually having. And all these, this Gartner hype cycle stuff, which is, oh, we're going to, oh, we're not going to need money in 10 years. Well, then why are you so greedy and trying to grab onto it?
Right, and it's because it's not money. They already know that money's fiction, which is why they're creating Bitcoin. They're just using this economic system to crush us and kill us, fucking assholes. Sorry.
No, but but the thing is, like, the thing is, they don't, this is the miscalculation is like, they don't think they need us. But the problem is for them, they're way more dependent on us than we are of them.
Right. Right.
You
And
know?
that's the thing. Yeah. And I think it's, and here's the thing. So when I return back to like parallel systems of support and that little piece that I have in the daisy chain, even if you're doing it in like a just simple way at first and you think it doesn't really matter, keep on doing it because what it's doing is it's building social proof that communities have power.
Mhm.
And that's how you start to learn, oh shit, so much of this stuff that we thought that we needed incompetent people who are wasting our tax dollars for, we can actually give to each other and we don't need these people, right? And what it does is it gets people humble real fucking quick. So that's what I'm trying to say, right?
You know,
Like,
here's the thing that you could do that say is good training, right?
yeah,
Find a few friends, right? And say, "Hey, let's all get together at somebody's place and we're each going to bring a dish and we're going to cook."
yeah,
Okay? And then you say, "All right, we're going to get together and, we're each going to bring a dish and we're going to have a communal meal and we're going to talk and da da da. Hey, do you need this for oh yeah, I could use some of this." Is like, "All right, it's like, "Hey, what does anybody have any dietary restrictions?" And then you start talking, and before you know it, it's like that is your first little base of support because
yes,
now you're starting to talk to that's what that's what we're talking about, right? That is
you're
your
right.
first
You're
little
talking about
base.
how. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Because now that's your first little sort of community bond is you were creating a communal meal, right?
Yeah,
Where when things get bad, you already have that pipeline and that talk. You're not starting it from zero, you know?
right,
So because this is not gonna collapse. So like if this is headed for a collapse, it's not gonna happen overnight.
right.
It's gonna be, I don't know, things that used to cost a certain amount suddenly are costing like more and more and more. You start seeing shortages. You start seeing like, oh, and people notice it. Like you're starting to see that now. That's why we're not being hyperbolic. Like, like my buddy said, yeah, man, my wife went grocery shopping today and she bought four bags, and it cost $200. He goes, man, I remember that used to cost me 50. That's how people measure it. And I said to him, yeah, man, like I pretty much order the same thing. And I kind of have like I try to spend between 30 and 60. Like that's, most closer to 30 and 60 and is where I kind of, I try to be real disciplined with it. And what $30 5 years ago used to get me 2, 3 bags of food. Now half of one, if I'm lucky.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what people notice. You know, no one's gonna, and this is where these systems are failing, like, because look at what people they're trusting corporate news. Like, you can't trust anymore. They're not turning to that. They're not turning to that. So to your point, where you can start building those parallel systems is you can start with food. And then you can start with, hey, you know, my kid's grown. Who needs baby clothes? Or who needs a jacket?
right.
I got an extra jacket. Who
Yeah.
needs a jacket for winter? Or who needs this? Who needs that?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I want to jump in two things. Like one is that if you're interested in the food thing, when I built the daisy chain, I actually built the first pedal that I built, and I talked to someone who's in permaculture. Hi, Doc, if you're out there. So Doc helped me build like a little thing that's like, how do you build this pedal? So I'll reshare it after this conversation, but it literally helps you plan like what are the things that you need, right?
Mhm.
And then the second piece is just to add to what you said about starting with that potluck is that the next time or that dinner that you have together, the next thing is that you bring two more people, right? And then and then create these sort of like hives that work together. It's not like zombie apocalypse, we got ours, but like how do you basically build this kinetic, nimble infrastructure of care? But I think that it's actually not that hard. Oh, and also the time bank you're talking about so time banks, tool banks, and skill banks are something that you can start building right now in your
Mhm.
communities, right? It's so important, and you can start with the again, like the inventory of shit y'all got, right? And just start thinking about your whole community as a Craigslist, where you're sharing stuff in a sharing library. It's going to be necessary.
Well, and think about this is kind of like, it's going to sound radical, but it's really not when you think about it. So let's say to your point, you start bringing more and more people in. And
Mhm.
let's say you started out with on your block, right?
Yeah.
you know, and you say, "Hey, every such and such time, we're gonna have community, like we're gonna have this a meal." Everybody
Mhm.
comes in. Now you're talking about, you know, like, "Hey, what's going on in your life?" People are sharing, "Oh, you need this, like, I can help you out." It's like, "Yeah, man, I'm trying to, I got a leaky faucet." I was like, "Oh, well, I know something about that. I'll help you out."
Yeah.
And so if you're doing that on your own and you're not meeting at like Chipotle or you're not meeting at some chain restaurant, right? You're doing it in your community, you're taking it to these big chains that you're withholding your business.
Right.
So that's an
Right.
act of resistance in and of itself, right?
Right.
Or and then you're now forming these community bonds where it's like, "Oh yeah, I know Frederick, man. Like, he came over. I had to, you know, do a project on my deck, and he helped me out. You know,
Right.
and Joe let me borrow his power saw. You
Right,
know,
and yeah. Yeah, and Weirdo helped you build your raised beds with, like, compost lasagna gardening, right? Like, we
right?
all have or Weirdo, knows how to sew up your clothes here, which I is
Mhm.
true, like, there are all sorts of skills that we all have that we have been told are important, or unimportant, or just little stupid hobbies, but those are actually the things that are going to end up, like, saving us, you know?
Yeah,
I think.
because I mean, no, I think you're right. Because what does the world look like if you enter into a Great Depression like economic downturn, where 25% of people are unemployed, which is what it was in the Great Depression?
Right.
And how do you live with those same skill sets? Like, how do you get through with those skill sets?
Right.
Um, and it's again, it's like, oh man, it's gonna be bleak. It's gonna be no, it's just gonna be different. It's gonna be
Right.
tough, but it's gonna be different because again, chocolate chip cookies came out of the depression. They didn't exist before the depression. They came out of the depression.
Dude, I love that story.
Yeah. It's because again, most pastries and sweets, that's what they were. They were pastries, they were baked, they were a little more elaborate. And people were and you have what they called the during the depression, it was the lipstick economy, right? And so the reason they call it that is because women, you know, would cut back on every other piece of makeup except lipstick. They would still buy lipstick because they wanted to feel, it's like, all right, well, at least if I want to feel pretty, you know, I can at least I can use lipstick. But there a lot of the treats and the simple stuff, it like chocolate chip cookies, it was like, how do you make something relatively cheap where you're not baking an entire pie and you're using all this flour and you're using chocolate chip cookies came in and that's it.
Interesting. And I love that,
Yeah.
like, we're in this moment now where and I mean, I'm just manifesting this, like, we're in this moment now where the prettiest thing that a woman can do is speak her fucking mind. And I think that we also have this moment legitimately, like, it
Yeah.
that is the sexiest it is the sexiest quality that any person has, is saying what is on their mind and saying it with authenticity, without apology, and with integrity. I mean, like, we have all these notions of, like, things we distract ourselves with, but I just want to manifest that, like, that in this new moment there will be not a lipstick economy, but a sharing economy where we also skill share, and that men learn how to make new sweets for everybody. But
Yeah.
like, I love that. I love that, knowing that, like, listen, even good things come out of bad things. And I feel like too, I mean, for you, I'm just wondering, does it feel like a little bit the way that people who were flat earthers were like, "Oh no, if we take our little boat, we're gonna fall off the edge of the world." Is that, like, where we're at? Is that people are so afraid of knowing what to do next that they're just sort of staying in a holding pattern?
I think a lot of it is just, if you look at systems of change, like people are always afraid of change. Like, not
Mhm.
not like every person, but we're all kind of terrified by that. And,
Mm.
you put it in perspective is, and Heather Cox Richardson references this all the time. The world order that was built from post World War II until really now, until Trump, lasted for 80 years. I
Mhm.
mean, we've never known anything other than that. And so you're you're seeing this kind of falter and collapse, or it's reached its extinction burst point, and you're wondering like, "Oh my god, like what comes next?" And for people that are sick of this are like, "Yeah, let's do something else." And other people are like, "No, no, I just wanted to go back. I just want to vote Democrats in the midterms and they're going to fix it and everything's going to be fine and everything's going to be good." And it's like, but the problem with that is what happens if we pass that point of no return where we're just trying to keep this system, which was never perfect, on life support. And
Dude,
it's
yeah,
better just to pull the plug and say, we're going something different, you
yeah,
know?
man. Yeah, and to your point, like, all right, I think about Viktor Frankl, who is a Holocaust survivor, a Polish person, and he
Love
said,
Frankel.
yeah, and I believe, and I've heard that this is unclear attribution. So somebody in the comments will be like, "But weirdo, you're wrong," and that's cool. I love being wrong because then means I learn new stuff. So I think that Viktor Frankl once said something like, "Institutions have no souls, but people do," and he was
Yeah.
talking about this moment when he was in a concentration camp, and this person lets him out. Right? He says that something happens, and he needs to go see his wife, and he lies, he fucking lies, and the dude knows it's a lie, but he lets him go. But what I see in that is that in this moment, in higher education, in medication, in government, people are more invested in preserving the institutions that are harming people than they are for making sure that people survive this moment. It's like they're absolutely willing to feed thousands, if not millions of people into the fucking wood chipper in order to
Mhm,
maintain this system that creates violence on its people instead of being like, you know what? This shit is fucked up. Like, we have been
mhm.
traumatizing each other for 80 years, 250 years, actually before that, right? Like,
Yep.
we gotta fucking stop. And it's not radical to say sometimes you have to quit an abusive relationship and build a different one.
Yeah. No, and I mean, people are funny that way, to Frankel's point, where it's how many times have we heard like an ICE agent has an undocumented spouse or significant other? And the thing about it is because for him, that person is a person, right? Whether whether it's the trad thing and all that, it's like that's a person. But Renee Good is not a person, right? They're an other. They're an enemy, right? You're conditioned to, like you're not thinking about that as a human being, that person as a human being, and you can commit all sorts of atrocities. And the problem with the Epstein class and these billionaires is they're so far removed from humanity that, they're sitting on some kind of crypto Mount Olympus that they can just do what they want because we don't matter. 12-year-old children, girls don't matter, right? They're just a sexual pleasure device for them and their sick needs. And if they happen to kill one, well, there's a trap door and they can just throw her in the sea,
Right.
right? Whereas like people like us are like, no, that's somebody's daughter. That's a human being. That's a life you snuffed out and you need to be held responsible.
Right. Dude, yeah, and
And
that's the other piece of this is that they see accountability as death, and it's because they know that they've been death dealing to people for decades.
correct. It's like, you know, the one thing that should be brought up is like, is Elon Musk responsible for the deaths of people that from USAID who's funding
Yes,
Ukraine? Yeah, I would say that. I would
yes,
say every death that happened, that's you. You are
yes,
a mass murderer.
yes, he is
Like
a mass murderer.
you should be up for crimes against humanity. But
Right,
well, you can't say that, Fred, because he didn't really kill him, But and so or the fact that to get too in the weeds to it, you look at Brian Thompson, the murdered, CEO of United Healthcare.
oh, that guy.
Okay.
I didn't know his
Yeah.
name. I thought
Yeah.
he
It was Brian Thompson, like Luigi Mangione,
oh,
reported or allegedly, killed him. They haven't,
so
I'm,
oh,
I,
you were talking okay, 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 you were talking about the
yeah,
CEO. Okay,
but
yeah,
here's
yeah.
the thing is like Luigi Mangione shoots, reportedly shoots him. And yet Brian Thompson, as the final decision maker, is responsible for tens of thousands of people who have died because they haven't received health care. And we don't call him a murderer. Why?
Right. Well, and the answer to that is obviously like this white supremacist version of an economy that sees everybody else as cattle and is expendable, right? And when I said the
Right.
thing about like how they're holding on to this economy, they have a different plan for themselves when we all die. They're just using this economy to cull the population and to control us and to keep us in trauma. And they have been doing this for fucking years. It is the reason why they haven't solved the gun crisis because they want every parent and every child so afraid to learn and so afraid to be curious that they threaten you with fucking guns at your school when they know they could damn well change it.
Easily.
Right. So I mean this system is designed to keep you in trauma, to keep
Mhm.
you obedient because you're worried about losing your job, you're worried about where your next meal is going to come from, how you're going to keep a roof over your head. Are you going to be able to house your mom who is dying of cancer who now has to go out of the nursing home and into your home? What the fuck are you going to do because you don't have that training? I mean like they are doing insane shit, man. Like
Yeah, well,
absolutely insane.
and here's where you eventually get to a place where it's gonna feel radical, but when the moment comes, it's not going to be radical, and
Right.
this is where you need to be open to it, and so, like, you look at Mike Mondani in New York, and everybody's talking about, like, "Oh, he can't tax these people, and there's gonna be a $1 billion shortfall. How's he gonna make it up?" It's like, "'Cause if blah, blah," and, and my thing was like, "Well, you could just take their shit." "Oh, you can't do that. You can't just blah, 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 blah." It's like, "Yeah, but the government does that to us all the time. You fail to pay your taxes, they put a lien on your house, they, take your car."
Right, the law
So
gets to apply to them too.
right, so why, like, and why can't we just say, "We need this. We're just gonna take your stuff, billionaires, until we," or you could pay for it in taxes. Do you want the care? Do you want, like, where do you want the stick, man?
Right.
And again, when you frame it like that, it doesn't sound like that big of a radical notion.
No, it's just
Yeah.
that we've literally built this thing where we have literally propaganda for years in the United States. Even all of our superheroes went from being everyday people to being billionaires, right? Elon Musk sees himself as that who's that guy? Iron
Tony
Man.
Stark. Tony
Yeah, my
Stark.
God, it is just get to therapy, Elon. Did you just developmentally arrest in middle school? Fuck, man.
Yes, he
But I
did.
guess I just man, you maybe the reason you're undateable is because you never went to counseling. Anyway, but like literally, I mean, this is the reason why he has to pay to couple with people, like in terms of like to carry his children, because he's like absolutely inept. But my point here is that we have deified wealth in this country, right? And I think that we have created this mythology that these people are kings, that they are above us, and there's so much of even the stories that we consume like encourage us to believe that they are held to a different standard. And
Right.
and it's not just about wealth, it's also racialized, right? At the same time. So that like white men literally when Trump said I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and no one would do anything, one that is the moment that people should have realized that he was a dark triad personality and stayed the fuck away from him. But two, that is literally what all these people think. Is that they can do anything.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. There's actually discussion going on in the comments, and they're talking about anarchy, versus, like, so first, like, anarchy is not antithetical to democracy. It's not two different systems. If you actually want to read an interesting thing about uh an attempt at implementation in anarchy, there's a guy named Nestor Mako who was post World War I. He was in Ukraine, and so this is the time when, like, the noble class and the old regime is still trying to get their land back. And Lenin is coming in with the Soviets, and Nestor Mako was sort of in the middle, and he had an army of, like, I think it was like 10,000 people at one point, and controlled a portion of Ukraine for a little while. All traditional anarchy means, guys, is really, it comes from the Greek, where it just means to have without archons. So you're talking about a more of an egalitarian society. You're not talking about, like, where there's structured hierarchies, right? You don't
It's
have.
it's horizontal, not vertical.
Yeah, 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 exactly. It's not vertical. where it's built in hierarchies, but it's more horizontal. Um, and again, it's to going back to Frankel's point, it doesn't matter really what system you use. It it matters it matters is it does that system view people as people, right?
Wouldn't that be neat? Yeah,
That
yeah,
anytime you have a system that starts moving to where you're getting where you are exploiting and otherizing and dehumanizing people, there's a problem with that system. You saw that with the Soviet system. You're seeing that with our system. Like really, the reason you push for democracy is because the one person, one vote thing is because you hope that that still keeps people grounded in that each person has value, right?
right.
Um, and
Because when they
that's
don't,
what
yeah,
anarchy seeks to do. Now, the thing is, even with Nestor Mako, he didn't have a pure anarchic system because the reason I like studying Nestor was, um, he really tried to implement an anarchic system, but they had councils, they had committees, and because they still had to they still had to coordinate things, right? What you talked about with like you had the operational thing and it's really just trying to, how do you coordinate and how do you know, coordinate resources, coordinate folks. Like, how do you get people to where you can get resources and folks where they need to be? The
yeah,
interesting thing about Nestor is so of course the Soviets take over Ukraine. He ended up as a stagehand in a theater in Paris after that. So the guy that led this anarchist revolution, once was leading, like tens of thousands of people into combat, ends up building sets for theater in Paris.
yeah. Well, a fine retirement, really. I know for
Yeah, I
me,
mean it's crazy when you think about it. You're like, oh, okay, I like that's pretty
yeah,
dope.
it
Mhm.
is, and I mean, all these things are like tragic. I mean, for me, one of the things that I find in this moment that is a little worrisome is that while history is instructive, and can tell us to where we've been, in this moment, I see a lot of people reaching for like anarchy. I'm closing my eyes to think of all the things people have touched on, reaching for anarchy, reaching for Marxism, reaching for fill in the blank, all these different things, even back to these bullshit ideas of manifest destiny. Everyone's plucking in the past. But the point is that if we need to build new models of living that are grounded in the future, that are grounded in the reality that we are in now, instead of reaching back for a model that barely worked then, as you point out, right? I mean, one of the things that I really love is this notion of sociocracy, and I don't. It's not about governance. It's about parallel community organizing by building out like little pods so that everyone switches roles. They have a way of making decisions, reporting back to each other, and respecting people's boundary and fucking humanity, right? And I would happily share that. I think I'll share it at least in the cross post of mine, but like it's a way to learn how to like collaborate and get along with each other without wanting to, because no one, meetings suck, right? This is a way to
Yeah,
make them suck less and coordinate better, right? Without like wasting people's fucking time because it's the most precious commodity we have.
yeah. I mean, the hard part with this stuff is, and I can't remember what the psychological phenomenon is called on. So and they've done studies with this where it's, um, so they'll have somebody have a problem, right, in a room with one or two people,
Mm.
and somebody like they'll walk in and they'll trip or it's like they're searching for an answer, and if there's one or two or like maybe three people in the room, people are more apt to jump in and help, right? Because it's just them. When you start getting above like six or more, everyone kind of starts looking around to see who's going to do it. And it's because everyone thinks like, oh, well, I guess someone else is going to do it, or
Yep, it's the
like,
bystander effect.
yeah, it's the bystander effect, right? And so
Mhm.
you're like, oh, well, surely somebody else they're going to do it. And I have to focus on this and this and this. When you're creating any kind of system, is like, how do you get around that, right? Like, how do you get it to where it's like, and that is the rub on forming these community things, is because we've gotten convinced that the system is going to provide you with this life. All
Mhm.
you have to do is be a cog in it. And for a long time, for a lot of people, like basically white men and white folks, it did do that to a degree, right? That
Right.
was the social contract. And that is breaking down. And so,
Mhm.
suddenly it's like, all right, well, what do we do? Well, we're going to have to work together. And so, and how do you not do the bystander effect? I mean, you're going to have to stand on business. You're going to have to do something, you know? It's like
Yeah.
you're going to have to get with people and someone says, "Oh man, I'm really struggling with this and this and this." It's like, yeah, well, okay, well, I got this. Maybe I can help you out. Or like to your point, it's like, man, I'd really like to learn how to, I really want to plant a garden, so I can have some
Yeah.
vegetables. Oh, okay, well, I know how to do that. I'll
Right.
help you with, you know,
Yeah. And yeah, and another piece too, and like at least in the way that I've sort of articulated how to move together, it's not an accident that art and social is social. So I've done it as like petals, right? But there's a social petal, there's a creative petal, there's a medical one, et cetera, and so forth. Some of the people in here, I'm sure, have looked at it, and to which I am grateful. But the reason why I've got the art and social pedal is because one of the ways that you start this in your communities is through re-embracing public art of all forms and social gatherings, because it then builds the community's morale back up to be able to do all of this really hard things, because art and social kinship has been the thing that helps people do the kinds of impossible things that they weren't able to do before. So it's not just, oh, artists aren't relevant, or people who know how to bring people together aren't relevant. Those are sacred social talents that help us do the work that we need to do. So I would start there, honestly, for the people who
yeah,
are work, because artists are natural magicians that pull people out of the bystander effect into the joiner effect.
right. And
And that's a
that's,
great place to recruit, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Good, good Karen.
How do you get people into like into a joiner instead of a bystander? You have to give them ownership of things. You have to give them, you know, uh, a place in this. And the thing
Yeah.
is, the Epstein class does not want us to have a place.
Nope.
They don't want us to have ownership in our own society. They want to take what we produce for themselves, but they don't want us to have an ownership of it. Because if we have an ownership of it and we have a stake and we have a say, we might say, you know what? We don't need you at what you're doing. We want to do this.
Right.
We
Right.
we don't wanna have guns where they're in schools. And, like, where it's anybody can get it. No, we're gonna do this. Or I don't think you should have billions and billions of dollars while there's people living on the street with nothing,
Yes.
I don't think I don't wanna live in that society. How many people, "Oh, I agree with you, Fred. I agree with you, Fred." It's like, "Oh, wow. Look at all these other people that agree with me." I guess that we're just gonna take some of your stuff until these people have a place to go, you
Mhm.
know? We're gonna leave. I mean, yeah, and so you start doing that, it's like, uh-oh, they lose their power,
Right.
you
And
know?
and the thing is they don't really have their power, they just have this fictional notion of money that we are all believing in, right?
Mm, yeah,
I mean, Peter Thiel said, "It's so hard to hide your money," and it's like, when you can see that much hoarding and the fact that he will never have that much money in his life, it's literally about suffocating the rest of society, these fuckers. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, for me, it's like, that I am practicing nonviolence and I try to be very measured in what I say. So I mean this metaphorically when I say that we are going to take there's going to be like a fucking pinata. We are going to, or gutting a fish. We are going to take those fucking resources back from the people who stole them from us, because
yeah,
this is not capitalism, and the economy that we have right now is a story about how we exchange goods. And these people have manipulated the system so much that it has become a malignant cancer. And that fucking sucks. And we don't have to like deal with that. So when I say we're just going to, beat the money out of them like piñatas, I don't mean like with violent force. And, I'm not, I'm just, I'm not. I just mean it like these people have this notion that wherever they go, that they can just evade these consequences, and they're fucking wrong.
Here's how I kind of view myself, right? Is I view myself as a truth teller and a guy who's trying to give the Epstein class some warnings.
Right?
I will not initiate violence against anyone. However, not everybody feels like me. And I've studied enough history and seen this story play out many times. It's not always the same way, and it doesn't. And the first, the second act, and the third act they're not always the same, but it all kind of has a feel and a rhyme and a flow. And I'm telling you, it's like you want to tell these guys, like, listen, this doesn't end well for you, and you are getting to the point where you have choices to make.
Right.
Everybody's going to start having choices to make, and so the thing is, with this gross inequality that we're feeling and what's happening is we have to imagine a different world. Now, again, like we talk about, like, we take it as like, oh, that's communism, that's left, that's so wrong. It's like, so the internet, the infrastructure, and a lot of these things that they have made billions off of. Forget the government subsidies that are our tax dollars anyway. Forget that. They were all built by the Department of Defense and the federal government, which was built with our grandparents' tax dollars. Did we get anything back from that, from these corporations who've made billions on? No. There wasn't a tax that said, oh, man, Microsoft, you've made all this money. Google, you've made all this money from this government thing that we've built. We need our cut we need to repay back the American people for that. Like, they have,
Right.
you need to, you know, so knowing that, is it so out of bounds to say, you know what? Our grandparents built this with their tax money and we want our cut. We
Right.
own
And
20, the American people own 20% of Google.
dude, yeah, more than that, man. And I'm just and yeah, like
But does that, I mean, the way I phrased it, does that sound so radical?
no,
Does that
it's
sound so unfair? No.
no, it's not. And it's that fucking simple, right? It's that so to your point, every bit of this is that fucking simple, right? We do not have
Mhm.
to go down this cliff. They are dragging us off of this cliff, right?
Right.
And it's literally a mental illness that they are projecting onto everyone else. They are essentially hoarders, right? And
Right.
they're projecting their
Right.
sickness onto everybody else and then calling us parasitic. And it's like, bruh, looked in the mirror lately? Like, what? What the fuck, man?
What does Elon have? Like, I mean, you've got like a sect of these Epstein class people that are like they're eugenicists and they think
Yes,
their genes are superior. Elon has like 13 kids with multiple
I
women.
shudder. I mean, I shudder to think about that, especially when I think about what we know about Elon Musk's father. There was a incredible news report that said that he, was accused of abusing his own children, right? And that is very offensive to me, also as a survivor. But then you also know that his brother and Elon and himself are both implicated in the Epstein files. So I mean, like, I shudder to think about how this man who is blowing through generational trauma, right, and just repeating it, right, like his genes are not superior. He doesn't even have the mental acuity to deal with his own family's trauma and to alchemize it and to become a better person. Instead, he has blown his pain through people his entire goddamn life, at taking on vanity project after vanity project to prop himself up, claiming that he's some titan of industry when he just keeps on stealing people's resources off of daddy's diamond mines.
But if he was just some guy on disability living in a trailer in, Washington County, East Tennessee, and had 13 kids with 8 women, and it came to light, how would you feel?
Right.
You'd be
Exactly.
furious. Like, you'd be like, "What? This guy's getting welfare and he's having all these kids? Man, chemically castrate this guy. This is terrible." People would be outraged. So what's the difference between him getting where most of his wealth came from government subsidies, which is our tax dollars?
Well, and the other thing is too, it's just like, I mean, I'm here for like certainly people on disability who have a lot of kids, but I mean, like I'm saying this part, like it is that like he is raping children. He has raped underage people. He
Mhm.
and his I mean, I'm look, Elon, if you want to fucking spend your dollars to come for me because I'm saying what is clearly indicated in the Epstein files, and go ahead and be the fucking jerk who sues a community college teacher. Just fucking go ahead and make yourself look like an asshole. Anyway, my point my point here is that it is very clear that this man has sexually abused people and is implicated with people and enabled people who have done this. So it's not even just that he has all these kids and he's on the government dole, and he's also a fucking eugenicist on top of it,
Yeah,
right? That is the
yeah.
part that produces outrage. And the only thing covering his dusty ass is wealth and whiteness. And I think that it's time to snatch those things back from him. I
I love wealth and whiteness. God, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's the two
just,
W's.
I just like, I'm done with this, I'm done with this notion, that I hate everything about this system that enables the very worst people, right?
Yeah.
It, It's just, and the point here is not to just complain about it, but to just tell people that, like, literally, you have to be. It is important to engage in parallel systems of support, regardless, because we are headed into climate collapse situations, and we need to help each other because they are already taking FEMA dollars away from us, so that they hope that we die. That is literally what they are doing. Is what they're doing with veterans. They were just being like, hey, it's fine. We don't give a shit about you. So like building parallel systems of support, starting really small with like a house party, like Fred said,
Yeah.
or doing like art stuff and being like, hey, we're gonna try to get together in our neighborhood and build a plan to take care of each other. You don't have to open the front door and be like, it's all a crisis. We have to help each other. You could just start, with like a simple like shit's fucked up, right? We've got a plan to how to take care of each other here and do that because we need to be able to do that, but it's also our political muscle that we have forgotten that we've had. And these fuckers are gaslighting us out of it right now, I think. I mean, don't you think even what is your sense about social media? Because my sense is, in some ways, it's a beautiful communicative tool, but we are seeing literal genocides and atrocities and violence play out on our screens, and then a gif of a dog, and then we go on to a thing about how I went on a date, and then we go on to another atrocity, and that shit is brain breaking. I think it teaches us to dissociate from the reality that is happening and to just completely go numb and then not ever engage. I mean, where are you on the scale of uh how we're getting stuck in this moment?
I mean, it's hard. It's like it's a tool like anything else. And I mean, you see this as every time, like at least in the sort of the modern era, right? Post-industrial era, where every time there's a big jump in technology, there's always met with sort of I mean, just pull like social upheaval. Like is it is it is it Gutenberg? Is it the printing
Yeah,
press?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
good.
So that happened. You start having all these religious wars, right? Like that.
Gross.
One of the things that made Hitler sort of really powerful was the megaphone, right? Like the loudspeaker, which hadn't been invented. So that's why he could hold these massive rallies like at Nuremberg, and all the people could hear him, and his voice projecting it gave him this sort of larger than life persona, right? It's
Right.
because you'd hear his voice and you knew he was down there, and then it would be reinforced because you'd see it on television or you'd hear it on the radio, and it sounded like it was larger than life. And social media is part of that calculus now with the internet, where we've changed on how we communicate, and there's good and terrible with it,
Mhm.
right? We're seeing things that traditional propagandic systems would or cannot cover up, like the murder of Renee Good.
Right. I
Literally,
know.
almost, it was going viral, almost like, I mean,
As it
minutes
happened.
after it happened.
Right.
Whereas before, you if somebody wrote about it and it got picked up to the national press and it went through those filters, you might read about it and you'd be, oh, that's tragic. you
Hmm.
know and you have that separation to where this is visceral and raw, where you're hearing your neighbor, you're hearing her partner crying and wailing and screaming, and then the guy's like, hey, I'm a doctor, can I go assist, and like, I mean, there's people like doing live streaming saying, man, I saw it through a guy who's like, man, they straight up murdered her. Like they straight up murdered her, and so like George Floyd is just another number without, social media, without that. So there's good but again, Mark Zuckerberg is being hauled into court because of the damage he's doing to teenagers, especially teenage girls, on their mental health because they're literally promoting this horrible stuff to teens because they know they'll consume it. You know, so it's a tool that we haven't really grasped the long term implications of and what it's doing to us, both good and bad. And it's one of those things where we don't even I don't even think we really understand how to use it responsibly yet.
My
Like
dude,
because we
yeah.
don't understand it. We don't understand it yet. We don't we're not cognizant of it, like, because again, it's that sort of arrogance where we think like, oh yeah, this will be fine.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt us, is because I mean, we're good with it. I mean, I did a quick live because it's just I'm on here a lot, and there's times I have to take a break because it's like, the Prince Andrew thing dropped, and it triggered a lot of my own trauma and some other things, and because um I have a mother who's my mother has dementia, and there's things coming out, some are and I
Mhm.
think some of that trauma she had repressed has been coming out, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was like, she had a moment where she was bawling her eyes out, and I went to talk, like, my sister and I had to go talk to her, and she's like, she had remembered when my dad had beat her one time when he was drunk, and she said, "I just don't want you to be mad at your dad," because she thought my dad was still alive.
Yeah.
My dad's been dead for over 25 years, right? But that's that, and so, like, and I remember that when I was a kid, I remember seeing the after effects of it. Now the result of that was my dad had gotten drunk, he'd beaten my mom, I saw it, he stopped drinking after that, and then he didn't do it again. And I'm not defending him, I'm just telling you the flow of events, right? My dad was a mean drunk, and he didn't get drunk all the time, but he got drunk that time, and, he hit my mom, right? Like,
Domestic
you know
abuse is so very it is very common, and it needs to stop. I mean, my own dad, I mean, the Epstein files, I can't engage with them because the
I can't
similarities
either. I
between
can't
my
either.
father
I can't.
and Donald Trump, fuck that. I can't, because it's like, people who abuse women and children, they're often serial abusers in various ways, right? And this is another thing that we must confront, and I am so appreciative of all the conversations that are happening around how men can take the off ramp, when it comes to like toxic masculinity, and like
Yeah.
build new structures, and why Christian nationalists hate that shit. They hate that you are talking about new ways of being. So piss them off even more, you
Oh, I
know?
love it. Oh,
Um,
I think it's fantastic. I love. I wish they would get more mad at me instead of women and people of color online. They like, I don't get enough of it. I'm like, guys, I'm standing right here. Like,
yeah,
I'm ready.
please
I'm
support,
ready to
yeah,
go to battle. I live for that stuff. I'm ready to go to battle with
yeah,
you every day.
yeah.
Like,
But they would come for me, right? They're like, oh,
I
since
know they come for you, and then I got to go to your notes, and then I got to attack them in your notes. But they don't want to come to me, and I'm
no,
standing right over here, and I'm trying to goad them every chance I could get. But
right,
no, I mean, but when I look at, and this is where the complex stuff with humanity comes in. My grandmother, my dad's mother, like my paternal grandmother, had basically a dent in her skull, where his father took a frying pan and bashed her in the head, and where
yeah,
she had to go to knocked out, and she cracked her skull, and she wasn't ever quite right after that, right?
no, that's brain damage.
Yeah, and so when I look at what my dad did to me and my mother and our family comparatively, was better, even though it was bad. And, it's again, it's like you wanna have these simple narratives about people where it's like, he was terrible, he was a monster." It's like, "No, he did some monstrous stuff, but he also did some really good stuff." You know?
And
Like
and that's the thing is that, like, people can go on and do abusive things, but they don't get to have the right to be in relationships with people that they're abusing, and it should be so much easier to leave abusers, but part of the reason why abuse goes on is because abuser people in the neighborhood know, and they don't intervene because they think that it's not their business. Had
right.
one neighbor in my neighborhood paid attention, had one teacher who knew that something was up said something, I could have lived a very fucking different life. And it's everyone again, the bystander effect, right? It's none of my business. So I mean, like
Yeah.
people can be complex human beings and we can't turn them into monsters. We have to acknowledge generational trauma, but those people don't deserve access to those relationships, right? There needs to be consequences and there need to be ways to leave those relationships. And also men need to take responsibility for really having coming to consciousness groups that women had in the 70s. I think men need to do that now and talk about the ways that like white supremacy culture has really damaged them and
Yeah.
damaged the way that they show up because it has produced this loneliness epidemic that they're displacing onto women, saying it's your responsibility. But it's like, no, dudes, you've really got to like alchemize some of this trauma about what you have been told that being a real man is, because it has taught you that your value comes from conformity instead of from integrity. And that is like not great because it produces small and angry people who take it out on more people who are more vulnerable. And that's not cool, you
It's
know?
funny,
Um,
I was thinking about this today, like, you'll probably get this, like and I was thinking about the debt that I owe a lot of Black authors because I read a lot like, I read W.E.B. Du Bois, like, when I was in my early like, in teenage years, I read, Alex Haley's Roots, or no, not, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. I read that.
mhm,
Um, and, I read a lot about, like, the quote, unquote, "slave mentality," right? Which, I mean, as a white kid, didn't really apply to me, but, like, spiritually, like, I understood it. And so I always had this kind of separation from uh, propaganda growing up where I was like, they're trying to manipulate me. Like there'd be moments where I'm like, they're trying to manipulate me. And I don't like that. And because I was thinking, I was like, well, how the hell did I escape all that? Because I grew up
mhm.
in like the conservative stuff and like this and that and like eventually deprogrammed. And, you know, how did I get out of that? And it's the debt that I owe those authors. And the problem I see now is you get these young men who are just being, to your point, being sold this bill of goods where it's like, oh, if you take trend and you get buff, like, oh, there you go. And it's like, no, dude, like, you need to go to, you'd be better off spending that money on library fines and picking a
Yeah,
book up,
yeah, you're yeah,
and reading about, reading these authors that are relatively like they're available for free online,
right, and
you
free
know,
offline, right? Like, yeah,
right?
and and there's nothing more sexy than a man who reads a book, especially if it's not fucking Ayn Rand. Fucking if one more person talks about
Oh,
Atlas Shrugged, I'm gonna yeet them into the abyss.
don't you want to have a deep dive into Fountainhead?
Oh my god. No, absolutely fucking not. I would rather
She's
chew glass.
just it's like, the best casual dismissal I ever heard of Ayn Rand was from a buddy of mine in school where he said, "Oh, she's just mad because the Soviets took her family stuff."
You know what, though? You know what, though? You know what, though?
I
That
mean,
I
he, he
mean,
ain't right.
look at
He
that
ain't right. He ain't right, but he ain't wrong neither.
you know what,
Like
honestly though, hear me out. Wouldn't it be so cute if everybody just put that as, like, the review on the front cover of the book in the library? Just as a fun little revolt, you know? I mean, sure, are we defacing library property? Yes, but are we also telling the truth? Yes, you know? Like, I
I
like
just
that.
love that reductive thing. Is like he's like,
Honest review?
yeah, she wrote all these books because she's mad at the Soviets for taking her stuff, her
I
family
mean
stuff.
I
You know,
I think you're not fucking wrong. I don't think he's wrong. Yeah, I
it's
wanna go
not. He
back.
wasn't. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, we were talking about the internet, and I wanna kinda go back to that, because you said this really cool thing that said, "We don't know how to use it." and we're learning how to use it. And I feel like in this
Yep.
moment, so, and I'm getting this too, because I am so concerned about what's happening. And I hear people say over and over again, I'm afraid to look away because I
Mm.
feel like I'm not going to be as informed. But I want to say two things. One, this is what abusers do. They do really unexpected things so that you're constantly looking at what they're doing next and you can't plan a way out. It's an abusive structure. But two, we already see the score. Like Fred and I have talked about it this entire goddamn time. Like we were not
Yeah.
wrong about the arc of this, right? And I've been saying this like since the summer when I'm like, hey, like the Trump administration is like intentionally trying to kill you. Like I said this and I talked about parallel systems of support and that and this kind of shit. But this is the kind of thing to understand. In this moment, I think it's really good to set boundaries on shit. And even though I know it's hard for myself, but like we need to like understand that sometimes action is more important than information because like we can learn all of the nuanced ways that we are rat fucked, or we could take that energy and actually do the stuff that will unfuck this situation, you know?
So
So
my advice to that would be is like what are you trying to do? Right? This is what you ask yourself is and I what are you trying to do in this life? Like and
mhm.
be really honest about it. You know, where are you trying to get to? Like what is the kind of life you're trying to live as a whole? Where are you trying to get down the road a little bit? And where are you trying to get to today? And those questions, while they're related, can be different things at different times, and that's okay. You need to get enough. You don't need to get all of it. You need to get enough, right?
Mhm.
So, if let's say I started back at the gym in October, right? Because I was like, I want to get back in shape. I need to do more physical activity. Da da da. Da. Now, if you go in the gym on your first day back and you start, you try to lift every single weight you possibly can, and you collapse your body and blah blah. Blah, what's going to happen?
You're never going to come back.
No, you're going to be, oh my god, you might even get injured, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with information. I think a lot of it is for people, like, especially with the Epstein files or all these other things that are coming out, is like, because everybody's like, and I've seen this, is like, what's the thing that's going to take down Trump? I know it's in there. And if we just find it, it's going to take him down and it's all going to collapse and it's going to be better. And I'm here to tell you it's not, because all that's already out. This should have been enough and it's not. And the reason it's not is because these people in power, the Epstein class, are going to hold on like a death grip. We are in a clash of culture. That's what we're in. And it is going to be one of those forever fights. However, the tide is turning because they're
Yes.
asking us to accept something that is unacceptable. We have
Correct.
finally reached a place where it's, hey, in order for us to continue, you're going to have to accept being a chattel slave on a farm, and the women are going to be in a concentration camp overseen by Nick Fuentes. Oh, and we're gonna R word children. You good with that? No, I ain't good with that, dude.
No, and that is literally, I mean, wait, everything that you said, it sounds like, I mean, this is what abusers do. They say things so hyperbolic, they mean them, but they intentionally create a situation where the people who repeat it seem like, oh, you're crazy. It's like, no, we are literally repeating what these people just said that they were going to do to you, and your mind will not accept it.
Yeah,
Right?
and so the thing is, like, so it's like, man, what do we do? It's like, well, because you're in a culture war and you're in a forever fight, you got to take care of yourself first and foremost. You know, you don't need to absorb all the information all day, every day. You know, you just need to absorb enough. And like today, you've got to, I was like, man, I could write about this a masculinity piece, but I was like, nah, man, I just need to get this out. I got to say what I got to say. You know, I was like, all right, I'll just do a quick live, and it's going to be all over the place, and it's going to suck, but I'm just going to say it because I needed to get it out for me,
Right.
right? Because one of the things that really bothers me, and again, I'm not going to say this perfectly as a man, right, is the fact that you have we have so-called cultural leaders like Elon Musk or Andrew Tate or these people who are oath breakers who do not keep covenant with women, with marginalized people. And that offends me as a man of honor that tries to carry myself. It is offensive and it's gross. It evokes rage. I mean, just blind rage as someone who is a victim of abuse. It is, and it's, there are days that it is too much and I have to take a step back because I can't be effective if I'm just a mess.
Right. Yeah, dude.
I
I
can,
mean, yeah, and I think that Oathbreaker is such a you know, and I would say treaty breakers, like just not being in right relationship. And I mean, like they are asking people to accept something that is literally revulsive. And the reason that we have that emotion of revulsion is because evil, when we encounter evil, it tells us this is contrary to our collective survival, right?
yes.
Like this is we are asked to be accepting something that is revulsive, and revulsion is an emotion that tells you these people are, this thing is death dealing, right? And it's disgusting. I mean, it's so dishonorable that like it, and it's this demand, just the way that Trump, another you know child abuser, demands to be applauded. You know, no, like he what he needs to be is in jail. But the thing is, in terms of who's going to stop them, the thing is, the way that we can do this is right fucking now. You don't have to wait for the midterms. You don't have to go through some stupid fucking process. You can build parallel systems of support. You can do what Fred started with, was talking about rolling strikes that are strategic and very fucking inconvenient while holding the line in your neighborhood and building parallel systems of support. And I promise you that that is going to topple this situation, right? So, but waiting for the government like your mommies and daddies to fix this ain't gonna happen.
No,
They
and
don't
I mean,
care.
I get. Listen, I get why people think that, right? And I get
Yeah,
why.
I do too. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
and it's one part of the equation, right? You know, and being a good citizen, participating in your society is one part, but it
yeah,
can't be the only part. It
right.
can't be. And again, you may not have time for it right now because that's the problem with this. What we're having is they monopolize your time. They monopolize your energy. They monopolize, it's like, I got to work two jobs or I got to do this or I got to do that. And this is all I have to, then that's okay. And that's all you have time. Or maybe, you got social anxiety, you know, and you're like, man, I can't organize like a potluck or man, I got a small apartment. I can't have people over. It's like, okay, is there a cause that you're passionate about? Do you like animals? Well, they have people that want to sit, you know, like people that you want to go sit with animals that don't have anybody, you know, go do that. Take that first step to go be a part of the larger community,
Yeah.
even if it's just that,
Yes.
you know, even if it's just that, even if it's just going and getting a cup of coffee at a local coffee shop and sitting outside and just being around people. And if that's all you can do right now, then that's all you can do, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have. I mean, I always say like, there's already somebody doing what you care about in your neighborhood. Accept an invitation. And and legitimately, like you cannot know in advance how you were meant to save your like community. I say this, and I'm just gonna like I was talking about parallel systems of support when I wrote this back in June, and as a concept. And I was talking to this woman, and I was and I was like, "Hey, like literally, like when you think of like revolution or that people taking their power back, which is what it actually is, you think of like all these like war stories, but like how about some person who knows how to can is going to save their neighborhood's life? How
Yeah.
about somebody who knows how to teach people how to raise rabbits or somebody who knows how to help their community alchemize tough emotions? That those are skills that are necessary for people reclaiming their power and stopping looking at a system to give them those things and giving them to each other, because that's how we reclaim our power. It doesn't involve like every brave person with a sword and a bullhorn, you know, like it
Right.
just doesn't.
I'm not I'm contrary to what you might see here on lives and everything else, I'm not very I'm an extrovert introvert. I only have so much energy, and then it's like because I like to spend time reading books or, just being in solitude, you know?
Same.
I like that. Like, what I'm doing here is this is my way of saying, "Okay, well, this is how I'm gonna contribute to it, is maybe I can spark something in somebody else to go do it. Or maybe I can inform or I can try to give somebody some cultural context to what's happening, right? People who are like, "I don't understand what the hell's going on. I'm freaking out." I was like, "Well, let me try to give you some context about what's happening and what you're seeing and how to deal with it." That's my form of doing it, you know? But I've got others that are like, they're organizing for local candidates. And I try to help them out, you know? Whether that's advice or showing up to events they organize or, just that. There's all kinds of ways you can do things, and if you just have a willingness to try to do something, that's the start, is you have don't let yourself get into a place where you think you're helpless and it's over and you can't do anything. Like,
Yeah.
that's the worst place you can be. That's where abusers want you. They want you to be there, right? They
Yeah.
want you to think, "Oh, it's helpless. I can't do anything." Like, "Oh man, this like I'm stuck with this." No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not stuck with it.
You're not.
Or
You're
there's
not.
only or there's only one way to do it, and if we don't do it this way, then it's not gonna work. No, it's not it, you
No,
know?
it's not because this thing is the solution is very complex. It is about building an ecosystem of resistance and it needs your skill sets, it needs your hobbies, it needs your time, it needs your talents. It's about taking everything that you know how to do and instead of investing it in a system that is literally cannibalizing you, turning around and giving it to each other.
That's it,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah. Dude, on that note, I think that we should wrap this up, but I feel like we have done like a really good I feel like we've had a long ass conversation, but I feel like it was like I enjoyed the movement of this conversation. I think it was
Right,
very real, but I also think
yeah.
it offers some concrete action. I mean, how do you feel laying in this plane?
I always enjoy talking to you. That's why it's like, when I started seeing some of your stuff, I was like, "I gotta talk to Weirdo again, man."
Yeah.
She's always got
Yeah.
good stuff on how to like people can, get involved and get into it, you know,
Yeah.
and that's it, is we just gotta keep doing little bits here and there, realize that, it's a we're in a marathon, not a sprint, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
you're at Mrs. From a middle-aged man, right? Is that your blog?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
Mrs. from
Yeah.
Middle-Aged Men. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm at Weirdo Friend, so if you wanted to, like, learn anything so I try to keep it simple, right? That's because I'm like, you have one thing to remember in this moment, I'm your weirdo friend. So you can find my blog at I think some people I don't know if you know this, if you're experiencing this, but a lot of people who interact with me will message me and say, "I can't find your stuff," and it's because Facebook actually hides your blogs on your app. It's really weird. You can see people's notes, but your blog is actually like right under your profile. So like all of my writing is like you look for my little visage and my description and then the blog is there. Same thing with Fred's. But are you also experiencing people being like, dude, I can't find your blog?
Oh, yeah, yeah, and that it's just they keep
Yeah.
messing around with the app and, like,
Yeah.
they're very app focused, they're not, desktop focused.
Right.
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and again, the reason mine is so alliterative is because I named it because I thought it was funny to me, and I didn't think anybody would ever read anything I wrote.
I mean,
Like,
that's why I'm on here as your weirdo friend. That I did not come on here for credibility, obviously.
no, I didn't either. I thought of like, "Oh, it's just so alliteratively over the top. Mrs. for a middle-aged man." Like, look how funny
Right.
I am.
Like
And
the
it was
literary.
it was literally just gonna be for me, and I'm like, I'll maybe get like 50 subscribers, maybe," And I
Yeah.
wanted my little cute newsletter of whatever I just wanted to write about, and maybe like, 10 people would read it, and I was gonna be fine with that, and I ended up doing this, and it's like, "Oh my gosh," and it's kind of bad trip, you know?
Yeah.
But
People crave real stories. People crave authenticity in a world that is trying to sell you something.
yeah, I mean, I mean, yeah, yeah. I don't have anything to add to that because yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Fred, I hope we do this again. I enjoy talking to you every time, and I think it's good to sort of like have these sort of
Yeah.
conversations because people can feel really hopeless. Like you want to be told the truth, but you also want to be given a way forward, right? You can't just fall down and die.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
Well, dude, thank you for spending time with me this evening, and I hope we do it again.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey,
All right.
thanks
See ya.
everybody. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.